I always knew life could be unpredictable, but I never imagined I'd be stabbed in the back by the one person I trusted the most. My wife, Ashley, perfect on the outside but rotten to the core, turned out to be the biggest liar I had ever met. It all started with little things. Ashley started working late more often, coming home smelling like a cologne I didn't wear. Her phone became her lifeline. She clung to it like it was her oxygen supply, taking it everywhere, even into the shower. I noticed the way she smiled at the screen, the way her fingers moved a little too quickly to close a chat when I got near. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe she was talking to her girlfriends about work. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was off. One night, I decided to test a theory. I casually mentioned how I'd be working late the next evening. Ashley barely reacted, just nodded absent-mindedly while scrolling through her phone. But the next day, something told me not to go to work. Instead, I parked a few streets away from our house and waited. Not even 30 minutes after I left, a sleek black car pulled up in our driveway. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that screamed money. I felt my blood run cold. Who the hell was this? Ashley opened the door before he could even knock, her face lighting up in a way I hadn't seen in years. She threw her arms around his neck, giggling like a high school girl. And then, right there, in broad daylight, they kissed. Not just a peck. A full-on, passionate kiss, the kind that used to be reserved for me. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles turned white. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, the heat rising to my face. My mind was screaming at me to storm in there and rip them both apart. But something held me back. I needed proof. I grabbed my phone and started recording. Every second of that betrayal burned itself into my memory. The way she pulled him inside. The way she laughed, her voice dripping with excitement. The way she disappeared with him into our bedroom. Our bedroom. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, my stomach twisting into knots. I didn't need to go inside to know what was happening. My wife was betraying me, right in the house we built together, the home I thought was ours. When the car finally pulled out of the driveway hours later, I felt numb. I needed to be smart about this. I needed to make her pay. Ashley thought she was getting away with it, but she had no idea what was coming next. The rage inside me was unbearable, a fire burning through my veins, but I couldn't afford to lose control. Not yet. If Ashley thought she could humiliate me and walk away unscathed, she had another thing coming. I was going to make her pay, and I was going to do it right. The next morning, I forced myself to act normal. I woke up, went through my routine as if nothing had happened, even kissed her on the cheek before leaving for work. She barely reacted, just mumbled a distracted, "Love you," while scrolling through her phone. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She thought I was a fool. Instead of going to work, I drove straight to my lawyer's office. If this marriage was going down in flames, I'd make sure she walked away with nothing but ashes. My lawyer, Daniel, was a shark, the kind of man who tore people apart in court and smiled while doing it. As I laid out my situation, his expression remained neutral, but there was something in his eyes that told me he had seen this scenario 100 times before. "You need more than just a suspicion," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You need undeniable proof. Something she can't spin into an excuse." I nodded. "Then I'll get it." The rest of my day was spent preparing. I installed hidden cameras around the house, living room, bedroom, even by the front door. If she thought she could bring her lover back to our home again, she was in for a rude awakening. 2 nights later, I put my plan into action. Over dinner, I casually mentioned that I had to stay late at the office again. Ashley barely looked up from her plate. "Okay," she said simply, without even bothering to ask why. There was no sadness, no hesitation, nothing that even resembled a wife who cared. She had been waiting for this, I realized, probably already texting him before I had even left the room. I walked out of the house, drove down the street, and parked. Then I waited. Not even 20 minutes later, I watched the all-too-familiar black car pull into my driveway. He didn't even hesitate this time, stepping out confidently, knowing he was expected. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as Ashley threw open the door, greeting him with a look of pure excitement. one I hadn't seen from her in years. They didn't even make it to the stairs before their hands were all over each other. I switched to my phone, watching through the hidden cameras as they stumbled into our bedroom, shedding clothes like their betrayal wasn't happening in the very place I had built for us. I had seen enough. I stormed into the house 20 minutes later, my footsteps loud, my presence unmistakable. Ashley's panicked scream echoed down the hallway as I heard them scrambling. Oh my God, he's home. Damn right, I was. I reached the bedroom just as she yanked on a robe, her face pale and full of guilt. The other man, her boyfriend, was still in bed, half-dressed, looking like a deer caught in headlights. The air was thick with the scent of betrayal, of lies, of broken promises. Ashley opened her mouth, her voice shaking. I can explain. A bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Explain? I repeated, my voice dripping with mockery. Explain what, Ashley? How you've been screwing him behind my back. How you turned our home into your personal motel. Her lips parted, her eyes darting between me and the man beside her. She stammered, reaching for the first excuse she could find. It was a mistake. I pulled out my phone, my fingers steady as I pressed play. The footage was crystal clear. Her laughing as she let him in, her kissing him, pulling him inside, leading him up the stairs. Her face drained of all color. A mistake? I echoed, stepping closer. How many times, Ashley? How many mistakes have you made? She swallowed hard, looking at the man beside her as if hoping he'd step in, but he wasn't looking at her. He was staring at me, terrified. I turned my glare to him. Who the hell are you? He lifted his hands in surrender, his voice shaking. Listen, man, I didn't know. I cut him off with a snarl. I don't give a damn what you knew. Get out. He hesitated. I said get the hell out. He bolted, tripping over his own pants as he fled, nearly knocking over a chair on his way out. A moment later, the front door slammed shut, leaving just me and Ashley in the suffocating silence. She sniffled, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen. I scoffed, shaking my head. You didn't mean to cheat? Didn't mean to lie to me? Didn't mean to throw away everything we had? She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. I love you, she whispered desperately. I pulled back, disgust curling in my stomach. No, you love what I give you. The house. The security. The fact that you never had to work for anything. Her face twisted in desperation, but I wasn't interested in hearing her lies anymore. From my pocket, I pulled out a thick envelope and tossed it onto the bed. Divorce papers. Ashley's breath hitched. You already had these? I smirked, watching as realization dawned on her. I knew, I said simply. I knew all along. Her lip trembled, but for the first time, she didn't have a snappy excuse, didn't have a manipulative lie ready to twist things in her favor. I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving her standing there, shaking, alone. Her sobs echoed behind me, but I didn't care. She had already lost me, and she had no idea what was coming next. The house no longer felt like home. As I stepped outside, the cold night air bit at my skin, but I barely noticed. My head was spinning, my chest was tight, but there was no room for pain anymore. Just rage. Just the overwhelming need to burn every bridge Ashley thought she could still walk across. Her sobs rang from inside, muffled by the walls, but I didn't care. Let her cry. Let her choke on her own lies. She had no idea what was coming next. I walked to my car, gripping the handle so hard my knuckles turned white. Every part of me wanted to go back inside and scream at her, demand an explanation, demand to know how long she had been making a fool out of me. But I already knew the answer. Too long. And she had no remorse. If she had, she wouldn't have done it in our bed. She wouldn't have thrown everything we built away like it was nothing. Instead of driving home, I went straight to my lawyer's office. I didn't even hesitate, just walked in, sat down, and laid everything out in front of Daniel. He listened, nodding along, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. He had handled cases like this before, and he already knew the kind of person Ashley was. The moment I showed him the video evidence, he smirked. She's not getting a damn thing, he said, closing his laptop with a sharp click. We're going to ruin her. That was exactly what I wanted. No sympathy. No second chances. She made her choice, and now she was going to live with it. When I got back to my car, I pulled out my phone. If Ashley thought she was going to twist this into her own sob story, she was dead wrong. I started with her parents. Richard picked up after a few rings, his voice warm and unsuspecting. Hey, son. What's going on? I didn't waste time. I caught Ashley cheating. The silence that followed stretched so long I thought he had hung up. Then, finally, a slow inhale. Are you sure? I almost laughed at the question. I have video proof. I walked in on them in our bed. A muttered curse sounded on the other end, followed by a muffled voice. Her mother, probably. Then, after a moment, her mother's shaky voice broke through. Nathan, honey, are you okay? I exhaled sharply. Not really, but I will be. They didn't try to defend her. They didn't try to make excuses. Maybe a part of them had seen this coming. Maybe they were just too ashamed to fight it. Either way, I made it clear that I wasn't interested in hearing Ashley's sob story when she inevitably ran to them. She had burned this bridge herself. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up with messages. Some were from friends furious on my behalf. Others were from people who had suspected something all along, but never wanted to get involved. And then there were Ashley's texts. At first, they were desperate. Baby, please talk to me. I swear it didn't mean anything. I just got lost. I was feeling neglected. I love you, Nathan. Please don't do this. Then, when I didn't answer, the anger started. You're really going to throw away years of marriage over one mistake? You're being petty as hell right now. Fine. You want to play dirty? I can play dirty too. That last one gave me pause. What the hell did she mean by that? Before I could even process it, my phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen, and the second I answered, his voice was sharp. Ashley's lawyered up, he said, and she's coming after everything. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. She thinks she can take anything from me after what she did? She's trying. She's claiming emotional distress, saying you were neglectful and emotionally unavailable. A humorless laugh escaped me. So she cheats, and somehow it's my fault? That's how these things go, Daniel muttered. But don't worry. You have more than enough evidence to blow her case apart. Just be ready for a fight. I leaned back in my car seat, gripping my phone until my fingers ached. A fight? Good. I was ready for a fight. Ashley thought she could walk away from this unscathed, that she could throw her pity party and still come out on top. She was about to learn the hard way. Actions have consequences. And I was going to make damn sure she felt every single one of them. The days that followed felt like a war zone. Except I wasn't dodging bullets. I was dodging lies, manipulations, and Ashley's pathetic attempts to claw her way back into my life. I should have expected it. Women like her never go down without a fight, even when they're the ones who started the fire. I barely slept. My phone was a battlefield, blowing up with texts from her, mutual friends, and even people I hadn't spoken to in years who suddenly had an opinion on my divorce. Everyone had something to say. Some tried to play peacemaker, talking about forgiveness and second chances. Others told me I was doing the right thing, that a woman like Ashley didn't deserve my loyalty after what she did. I listened to no one. My decision had been made the second I saw her in our bed with another man. There was no going back. Ashley, however, refused to accept that. At first, she played the regretful wife card. Nathan, please. I made a mistake. It was just a moment of weakness. I never meant to hurt you. Then, when I didn't respond, she switched to anger. You're acting like a child. You think you're punishing me? You're just proving how insecure and pathetic you are. And finally, the last desperate stage. Manipulation? Fine. If this is how you want to play it, let's see how your precious reputation holds up when I tell everyone what kind of husband you really were. That one made me laugh. Loudly. Ashley had always been delusional, but this was a whole new level of crazy. What kind of husband I really was. Let's see. I was the kind of husband who worked my ass off to give her a good life. The kind of husband who stayed loyal while she was sneaking around behind my back. The kind of husband who didn't deserve any of the crap she put me through. If she wanted to drag my name through the mud, she was in for a rude awakening. I wasn't the one with a reputation to lose. She was. By the time I met with Daniel again, he had already anticipated her next move. She wanted half of everything. Money, assets, even the damn house. I laughed in his office, shaking my head. She thinks she's getting the house? I scoffed. Over my dead body. Daniel smirked. That's the spirit. We're going to make sure she walks away with nothing but regrets. The next step was getting ahead of the game. I reached out to our mutual friends, the ones who actually mattered, the ones who would see through Ashley's lies and stick by me when the real battle began. Some were shocked, others disappointed in her, but none of them tried to defend her actions. She always had that vibe, one of them admitted over drinks, like she could never be satisfied with what she had. Guess she proved it. Damn right she did. But Ashley still had tricks up her sleeve. 2 days later, I got a call from my job, HR, to be specific. We received an anonymous complaint. The voice on the other end said carefully, accusations of misconduct. It took me all of 3 seconds to figure out what was happening. Ashley, that bitter, vengeful little. I forced myself to take a slow breath. Misconduct? I repeated. What exactly am I being accused of? There was hesitation, then hostile behavior, verbal harassment, a toxic work environment. I almost laughed. Almost. Ashley was trying to destroy my career. She knew she couldn't take my money, so she was trying to make sure I wouldn't have any money to fight her with. Smart. If I wasn't 3 steps ahead. I spent the next hour with my legal team, laying out every detail of my marriage, my work history, my spotless record. HR had no real evidence against me, just a claim, and that wasn't going to hold up. By the end of the day, the complaint was dismissed. Nice try, Ashley. But I wasn't done. It was time to hit back. Daniel had done some digging, and it turned out Ashley wasn't just an unfaithful wife. She was also a fraudulent employee. A little financial irregularity in her company's books, a few mismanaged funds, and suddenly, she wasn't just facing a divorce. She was facing unemployment. The moment she got the email about her sudden termination, my phone rang. You did this, she hissed the second I answered. I leaned back in my chair, a smirk tugging at my lips. No, sweetheart. You did this. I just made sure people noticed. You're ruining my life, she shrieked. I chuckled darkly. You ruined mine first. She hung up, probably realizing that for the first time, she had lost control. For the first time, she wasn't the one calling the shots. And for the first time, I felt truly free. But this wasn't over yet. She thought losing her job was bad. She hadn't even seen the worst of it. Ashley's world was crumbling, and I was the one pulling out the foundation brick by brick. She had spent years weaving lies, playing games, and treating me like an idiot. Now, she was finally learning what happens when you cross a man who has nothing left to lose. After she lost her job, the messages became frantic. Nathan, please. You don't understand. It wasn't what you think. We can fix this. I swear. Just talk to me. You ruined my life over one mistake. Was I really that worthless to you? Worthless? No. But disposable? Absolutely. I ignored her. Let her scream into the void. Let her sit in the wreckage of her own making. My focus was on the divorce now. Ashley wanted to play dirty? Fine. I was about to show her what dirty really looked like. Daniel had been working overtime, digging into every financial record, every legal document, every shady little thing Ashley had ever done. The woman had secrets, big ones. Turns out, she had been siphoning money from our joint account for months. Thousands of dollars unaccounted for, drained from our savings. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was robbing me. When I confronted her, she finally dropped the poor me act. So what? She snapped, arms crossed. It's not like you ever noticed. You were too busy working. I clenched my fists. That money was ours, Ashley. She smirked. And now it's mine. The rage that flooded through me was unlike anything I had ever felt. But I didn't let it show. No, I had something better. I leaned in, my voice ice cold. Not for long. She faltered then, just for a second. But it was enough. Ashley thought she was invincible, that no matter what she did, she'd always land on her feet. She was about to learn otherwise. That night, I made my final move. I called in a favor from an old friend, one who just so happened to work in the same company as Ashley's little side piece, the man she threw our marriage away for. A little digging, a few well-placed words, and suddenly, Mr. Homewrecker was under investigation for inappropriate workplace relationships. The best part? He was married too. By the end of the week, his wife had filed for divorce, and his boss had shown him the door. 2 for the price of 1. Ashley, of course, lost her mind. "You can't keep doing this," she screamed at me over the phone, her voice raw. "You're ruining everything." I chuckled, the sound dark and humorless. "I'm just getting started, sweetheart." And I meant it. By the time we stepped into court, Ashley was a shell of the woman she used to be. The confident, manipulative viper had been replaced with someone desperate, someone floundering. She thought she could win, thought she could paint me as the bitter, vengeful ex-husband who just couldn't let go. But the evidence spoke for itself. The infidelity, the stolen money, the fake accusations. She had nothing left. The judge saw through her lies within minutes. When the ruling came down, it was swift and brutal. Ashley got nothing. No alimony. No house. No claim to my assets. She walked out of that courtroom with the same thing she had walked in with. Nothing. And I had never felt lighter in my life. I watched her from across the room as she stood there, stunned, defeated. She met my eyes one last time, something almost like fear flickering in her expression. Maybe she finally understood. She was done. She had lost. And I would never look back. But even then, I knew this wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about making her pay. It was about reclaiming my life. And I had finally done it. Ashley was drowning, and I was the one holding her head underwater. But the thing about people like her, they never go down quietly. They claw, they scratch, they grasp at anything they can to stay afloat, even if it means dragging someone else down with them. I should have expected it. After the court ruling, I thought I was done. She had lost. No alimony, no house, no claim to my assets. She walked out of that courtroom with nothing but a hollow glare and the weight of her own destruction on her shoulders. It should have ended there. But Ashley was never one to accept consequences. 2 weeks passed in eerie silence. No texts, no calls, no pathetic attempts at reconciliation. Just nothing. At first, it felt like victory. Then, it felt like waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when it did, it crashed like a wrecking ball. It started small, just whispers at first. Mutual friends hesitating when they spoke to me, shifting uncomfortably like they knew something I didn't. Then, I started noticing side glances at work, hushed conversations that stopped the second I walked into the room. I didn't understand what was happening until one of my coworkers finally caved. "You should see this," he muttered, sliding his phone across my desk. I picked it up, frowning as I scrolled through the screen. And then, my stomach dropped. It was a post. Not from Ashley herself. She wasn't that stupid. But one of her friends had shared it, tagging her in some barely veiled attempt at damage control. A long, emotional essay about narcissistic abuse and the dangers of controlling husbands who ruin their wives' lives. It didn't mention my name. It didn't have to. The comments were already filling up with people offering their support. People I knew. People I had once considered friends. They were all falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker. "She's so brave for speaking out. Men like that never change. She deserves so much better." My hands clenched around the phone, my vision going red. This was her plan. This was her revenge. She couldn't win in court, so she was trying to win in the only way she had left, by ruining my name. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Fine. If she wanted war, she was going to get it. I spent the next few days gathering every shred of evidence I had. The messages, the recordings, the bank statements proving her theft. I compiled everything into a neat little package and sent it to a lawyer specializing in defamation cases. Then, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I made a statement. Not online. I wasn't about to play Ashley's game. But I sent it to the people who mattered. Our friends, our colleagues, the ones who had been poisoned by her lies. I laid out the truth, cold and brutal, with hard evidence to back up every word. And slowly, the tide began to turn. People started questioning her. asking why, if she was the victim, she had been the one caught cheating. Why, if I was so controlling, she had been the one stealing from me. Why, if she was telling the truth, nothing she said ever lined up. Ashley panicked. She started backpedaling, trying to twist the narrative again. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Then came the final blow. Her job had been one thing. Losing the divorce case had been another. But the moment she realized she had lost the public battle, she unraveled completely. One night, around midnight, my phone buzzed. I stared at the screen. Ashley. I should have ignored it. I almost did. But something made me pick up. At first, all I heard was silence. Then, a ragged breath. You happy now? Her voice was hoarse, empty. I didn't answer. You destroyed me, she whispered. I hope it was worth it. I should have felt something. Maybe once, I would have. But now? There was nothing left but exhaustion. You did this to yourself, Ashley, I said, my voice void of any emotion. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. A shaky laugh crackled through the line. I hate you. The line went dead. And just like that, it was over. Ashley had played her final card, and she had lost. I set the phone down and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight was gone. No more lies. No more games. No more Ashley. Just silence. Just freedom. And damn, did it feel good. The silence didn't last long. Ashley might have finally realized she had lost, but that didn't mean she was going to disappear quietly. That wasn't her style. No, women like her don't just accept defeat. They fester. They plot. They come back swinging even when they're already bleeding out. And she was about to prove just how desperate she had become. It started with the emails. At first, they were just pathetic attempts at guilt-tripping me. Messages dripping with self-pity, filled with lines like, I don't know how to move on, and you ruined my life, but I still love you. I barely skimmed them before deleting them. Then, the tone changed. The messages turned angry. You think you're a good man? You're nothing. I gave you everything, and you threw me away like garbage. I should have left you first. I should have taken everything and walked away before you had the chance to humiliate me. I still didn't respond. I could almost picture her, sitting in whatever miserable apartment she had managed to scrape together after the divorce, seething over the fact that she no longer had control over me. Ashley had built her entire identity around manipulation, always being the one pulling the strings, always making sure she had the upper hand. And now, she had nothing. That had to be killing her. Then, one night, she snapped. It was late, maybe 1, 2 in the morning, when I heard the knock at my door. Not a polite knock. A pounding, furious and erratic, like whoever was on the other side was barely keeping it together. I already knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Ashley. She looked bad. Messy hair, dark circles under her eyes, makeup smudged like she had been crying for hours. She swayed slightly, gripping the doorframe like she needed it to stay upright. Drunk. Of course. I didn't open the door. Nathan, she slurred, pressing her forehead against the wood. I know you're in there. Just talk to me. Silence. A frustrated laugh bubbled out of her. You really think you won? You think this is over? I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. This is pathetic. Ashley must have heard me move because her voice sharpened. You ruined me, she spat. I lost my job, my money, my friends, everything because of you. I finally spoke, my voice calm. No, Ashley, you lost everything because of yourself? A pause. Then, she screamed. Not words, just a raw, furious sound, full of rage and bitterness and every ounce of venom she had left. Then crash. My front porch light shattered. I didn't even flinch. I just sighed and pulled out my phone. Leave, I said simply, or I call the cops. I don't know if it was the exhaustion in my voice or the realization that she had no more weapons left to use against me, but something in her finally broke. I heard her breathing hard through the door, heard her mutter something under her breath. And then, just like that, she was gone. I watched from the window as she stumbled down my driveway, barely managing to keep herself upright. She got into her car, probably shouldn't have been driving in her condition, and peeled off into the night. And that was the last time I ever saw Ashley. The days that followed felt lighter. There were no more emails, no more messages, no more attempts to slander my name. She had finally accepted reality. She had lost. And I was free. For the first time in years, I woke up without the weight of her manipulation pressing down on me. I didn't have to second-guess every conversation, didn't have to brace myself for whatever new disaster she had created. My house was mine. My life was mine. I was mine. One night, as I sat on my porch with a beer in hand, watching the stars, I let myself really feel it. The end. The peace. The knowledge that Ashley was nothing more than a fading memory now. She had tried to break me. She had failed. And now, I could finally start living again. Ashley's desperate meltdown faded into the past, leaving behind a silence that felt strangely victorious. It had taken months, hell, years, to reach this point. The battlefield was scorched, the wreckage undeniable, but I had emerged standing. More than that, I was free. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could breathe without waiting for the next betrayal, the next manipulation, the next knife in my back. Ashley had been a storm, a hurricane of deceit and destruction, but now she was nothing more than a whisper in the wind. I spent the next few weeks reclaiming my life, piece by piece. It wasn't easy. The scars she left weren't just emotional. They were financial, social, even professional. Some people still believed her sob story, clung to the illusion of the innocent, wronged wife abandoned by her cold, unloving husband. But I didn't care. Let them believe whatever they wanted. I knew the truth. That was enough. One afternoon, as I was cleaning out the remnants of her existence from my house, I found a box tucked away in the back of our closet, her old keepsakes. Photos, love letters, trinkets from vacations we had taken together. I stared at them, expecting some kind of emotion to surface. Regret? Sadness? Nothing. The memories were just that. Memories. Not anchors. Not chains. I dumped the entire box into the trash without a second thought. Ashley had once been my world, but that world had burned, and I had no intention of digging through the ashes. It wasn't until I received an unexpected email from her lawyer that I realized Ashley wasn't entirely done yet. The subject line read, "Final settlement offer." I almost laughed. What was left to settle? She had lost everything. Her case, her credibility, even the twisted public sympathy she had tried to weaponize. But curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it. The email was short, cold. A formal proposal for her to drop any remaining legal disputes in exchange for a single request, a meeting. One final conversation. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her rot in whatever pit she had dug for herself. But another part, the part that wanted true closure, decided to see this through. We met at a small cafe, far from the places we used to frequent. Ashley arrived first, sitting at a table near the window, her fingers tapping anxiously against the ceramic mug in front of her. When she looked up and saw me, her expression flickered. Hope, regret, something in between. I didn't let her speak first. I slid into the seat across from her and leveled her with a gaze as cold as the coffee I had no intention of ordering. She swallowed, her hands tightening around the mug. I didn't give her the chance to start spinning another web of lies. No manipulation, no self-pity, just the truth. She whispered that she had lost everything and that she needed to understand why I had done this, why I hadn't just let her walk away. A bitter laugh escaped me. Let her walk away? She hadn't just betrayed me. She had destroyed everything we had. She had stolen from me, cheated on me in our home, tried to ruin my career. And now she was sitting there, pretending to be the victim? Tears welled in her eyes, but I had seen enough of those to know they meant nothing. Crocodile tears. The last weapon of a woman who had nothing left. She admitted she never expected me to find out. That was the difference between us. She thought the betrayal only mattered if she got caught. But the truth? The truth had always been inevitable. She muttered something about not expecting me to forgive her, and that she just wanted to see me one last time. I stood up without another word and walked out, leaving her sitting there with her untouched coffee and her wasted excuses. The weight on my shoulders was gone. Ashley was no longer a force in my life. She was just gone. Months passed. The chaos faded, replaced by something unfamiliar: peace. I threw myself into my work, reconnected with old friends, started rebuilding the parts of my life that had been neglected under Ashley's suffocating presence. One night, as I sat on my porch with a beer in hand, staring up at the stars, I let myself really feel it. The end. The peace. The knowledge that Ashley was nothing more than a fading memory now. She had tried to break me. She had failed. And now, I was finally living again,